I strongly believe that every single person on this entire planet knows that we have entered into a new season. Whether you're a Christian, Jew, Muslim, atheist, anti-theist, devil worshiper, whatever it is you are, you know that we entered into a new season around 2020. And you also know that something's coming. We all know it. Deep down, you know it. And it's very important that we understand that it's not like you're just sitting there thinking, well, something's coming. It is very clear on what Jesus said in Matthew 24 when he said, now learn the parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So you also, when you see all these things, know that it is near at the very doors. Assuredly, I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all things are fulfilled. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. And ultimately what Jesus is talking about, this parable, is he's talking about Israel becoming a nation again in 1948. And I've done lots of videos on that. I'm not going to get into that. That's what I believe it says. And I believe that's what many of you believe it says. And most scholars believe that's what that says. But the problem that most people have with knowing that something's coming is they use the very next sentence that he said in this conversation against knowing. But of that day and hour, no one knows. No, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. Now think about that for a second. So what Jesus just told us is here's how you will know the season. But the day and hour, no one knows. Now think about that for a second. What he's saying is you're to know the season, but you won't know the day or the hour. And this is very critical because the season started in 1948 and that generation will not pass away until all things are fulfilled. Not some things, all things. They're pretty darn old. Just saying that generation is getting up there. And you don't know the day or the hour, but I think we all know that we're in this new season now, this other season, and I believe you're running out of time. And you may say, well, I'm a prepper. I've been prepping forever. Like I'm not running out of time. I'm ready for this thing. Well, that's not what we are meant to be. We are not as the remnant, we are not meant to go hunker down in a cave. We are meant to be about our Father's business, and that leads to a real war, a war of the saints. It's the second most spoken about thing in the book of Revelation, this real war. Daniel talked about it. Jesus talked about it. And John saw it in Revelation. And it's a real war. And it's between the Antichrist and the world army against a remnant, 144,000 Israelites and a multitude of tribes, nations, and tongues of Gentiles. And you're running out of time. You're running out of time. And you know, maybe it's 100 years from now. I don't believe it is. And I don't think you do either. Especially when you just look at that prophecy. Because Jesus goes on to say, but as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark, and did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So also will the coming of the Son of Man be. So we are living in the days of Noah. You know, I've been going through the book of Enoch verse by verse, and don't tear your shirts and yell blasphemy. I've been doing it specifically to see what the days of Noah look like. Looks a lot like this. Looks a lot like this. Obviously gets worse, but it looks a lot like this. And it's important that we begin to prepare. Well, how can you prepare? You know, I've been asking God this question for a while now, and I strongly believe that the remnant is to unite. Strongly believe that. Jeremiah prophesied about it. Clearly, they are doing some business in Revelation. I believe it's important that the remnant know each other, that they unite, so to say. And I've been kind of blowing that trumpet for a couple years now. And I really don't even know what to do with it. Like, it's God doing stuff. I don't even know. But I can say that what I believe that is it's a group of Christians. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people call themselves Christians, but what I'm talking about is the remnant. That's people who are about the business of Jesus. I'm growing to not even like the word Christian. I prefer remnant because that's being about your Father's business. The remnant is about your Father's business, period. That's what that means. And the remnant should have centers of remnant influence, so to say, where a group of remnanters, so to say, all know each other, whether you're in Montana or Southern California or Colorado or Ohio or wherever you are. You should get to know those remnant people, So what I'm going to say is that, we're going to meet on October 5th in Centerview, Missouri at the Centerview Park. It's right in the center. We'll be all chilling in chairs, small town, hard to miss. We'll be there from 1 to 3. You're welcome to join us. You're definitely welcome to join us. And I also feel it in my heart to get out and go to places and try to help you all unite the remnant. Like you're running out of time. I believe that. You can't keep putting that stuff off. Like there's a point where you're like, all right, I got to get to know this. Because here's the problem with Christians. You might go, well, I go to a strong church. This is a good thing. There's going to be a moment, and I know this won't make any sense to you, but if you study the book of Acts and you study the book of Revelation, you listen to everything Jesus talked about and really study that out, and you study Jeremiah and you study Ezekiel and you really study that out, what it points towards is the religious people persecuting you. Why would an atheist care if you don't bow down to the Antichrist? Why would they care? If they really think he is the Messiah, they'll be deceived, just like Jesus said, that even the elect will be deceived. And just like the religious people turned Jesus in, just like the religious people ripped their shirt, the temple priest, the high priest of the temple ripped his shirt. Blasphemy to Jesus' face, and they all punched him and beat him. All the priests beat him. Like the priests were beating Jesus. Think about that. Who wanted to kill Peter right at the beginning of Acts? The priests of the synagogue wanted to kill him. Who killed Stephen? The priests killed Stephen. Like, you got to understand that when tribulation starts, that you can't trust the Christians. There's going to be a moment in time where they'll call themselves Christians because they're following the Christ. That makes sense to them. Because they're deceived, and they'll point you out. They'll call you something different, and they'll be like, well, there's the remnant. A guy lives in that house. So, and according to Jesus, that all starts like, bam, according to the prophecy of Daniel. As soon as you see that abomination, get out. It's, if you haven't prepared by that point, it's too late. It's just too late. It's just too late. So I strongly believe that the remnant has to unite. You're running out of time. In Centerview, what I can say there's all sorts of people taking care of prisoners, and there's all sorts of people feeding people. And there's, and there's this center for remnant influence, and it's in Centerview, Missouri. So, and beyond, it goes off into the other parts of that county, of course, but I believe we need that elsewhere. Like the remnant has to unite. You just have to. You have to. And I guess it comes down to this. If it's of God, of course you'll unite. If it's not of God, of course you won't unite. I think you just got to be very prayerful about that thing. and if you're in Montana, for example, like I know, like even a lot of people in Centerview are like, we got to go to Montana. Like, just work, we'll come help hook you guys up with each other. I know we're going to California another time. I know we're going to go to Ohio another time. So I believe that we can help each other do this thing, So don't feel obligated to come to Missouri if you're kind of closer to some of those areas I just mentioned. But, you're welcome. You're welcome. And it'll be October 5th, the first Saturday, 1 to 3 in the center, City Park, right in the center. And there's 2 long streets. Drive up and down them both. You'll see us in the middle somewhere. So, anyhow, that's where we're going to be. So come join us, and if you like. But I strongly believe, because a lot of the people that came here to Centerview, like they go out, they like kind of connect, like they'll run into people that are feeding and taking care of other people. Like that's how you kind of know, is you judge a person by their fruit. And if people are being about their Father's business, and you're like, oh, that guy gets it. Like that guy gets it. Like if somebody's taking care of an orphan in the name of Jesus, they get it. They get it. They totally get it. If somebody's, out trying to preach out on the street, they get it. They get that stuff. Like you can find them, judge a tree by its fruits. And I'm not saying, because again, be cautious trying to find the remnant in a big giant megachurch. I promise people will betray you when the day comes. Not all of them, but there will be some. Jesus said, just listen to what Jesus said. Even the elect will be deceived. So you're running out of time. You're running out of time. Get to know those folks in your neighborhood and around you, and that sort of thing. You're running out of time.